Pay attention. Forget everything you think you know about space. This isn't just another science video. This is a warning I shouldn't be alive to give. Do you think NASA tells you the truth? Are you ready to confront the cosmic horror the Webb Telescope really found, a secret they killed to protect? Then act now. Demolish that like button, subscribe and slam the notification bell, and share this video with everyone you know. Don't just watch. Prove you want the truth revealed. The sub. Nightmare hidden in the deep field data starts after you join the fight. My credentials erased, my apartment sanitized, emptied, the local news. They ran a brief story about a tragic hiking accident up on Catoctin Mountain. A clumsy fall, they said. But I didn't fall. I'm not dead. Not yet. But they're hunting me, and the truth I carry is far more dangerous than any mountain trail. It began subtly, 6 months prior. The Webb Telescope, our eye in the deep cosmos, had been faithfully orbiting at the L2 Lagrange point for over 3 years, revolutionizing astrophysics. Its gaze pierced back to the dawn of time, sending us data that constantly reshaped our understanding of everything. I was on the late shift, immersed in deep field survey data, pouring in from the near-infrared imager and slitless spectrograph, NIRIS. Just another night sifting through cosmic echoes, until the night the first domino fell. The night Dr. Victor Lang died. Victor. We were colleagues, maybe even friends, as much as his brilliant but prickly personality allowed. He was consumed, utterly obsessed with anomalies he'd found lurking in Webb's deepest, most ancient observations. Patterns that shouldn't exist, whispers in the cosmic background radiation. That night, he stormed into my office, his usual cynical demeanor replaced by a raw electric energy. Excitement or terror, I couldn't decipher which. His face was ashen. "Dan, you have to see this," he hissed, clutching his laptop. Like a life raft. "The patterns, they're not noise, they're not random." He never got the chance to show me. Mid-stride, crossing my small office, he caught his foot on the edge of the worn carpet. A trivial stumble, but the fall was catastrophic. His head struck the sharp corner of my metal desk. The sound, a sickening, wet crack. It replays in my mind constantly. Final. The official narrative was swift and clean. A tragic accident. Stress, sleep deprivation contributing factors. His family received condolences, a generous payout. Case closed. NASA moved on. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Victor hadn't just stumbled. He'd been silenced. 2 days after the sanitized funeral, confirmation arrived in my encrypted inbox. An email from Victor's private account, sent posthumously via a dead man's switch, I presumed. No text, just a string of precise celestial coordinates and 3 chilling words. "Look deeper, they're watching." Protocol screamed, "Report it." Anonymous email. Potential security breach, classified coordinates. It checked all the boxes for immediate escalation. But Victor's dying words, his obsession, the certainty in his voice. Curiosity, the scientist's fatal flaw, won out. I had to see what he saw. During my next late shift, when system oversight was minimal, I subtly redirected one of Webb's auxiliary sensors. A minor calibration adjustment, easily buried in the logs. Destination, Victor's coordinates. The observation window was short, just enough to gather preliminary data without raising flags. What Webb sent back wasn't just data, it was a paradigm shift, a cosmic revelation that shattered my perception of reality. The universe wasn't empty, humanity wasn't alone, and whatever was out there, staring back from the primordial blackness between the oldest stars, was ancient, vast, and terrifyingly intelligent. Victor was right. The structures were undeniable. Not nebulae, not gravitational lensing, not instrument glitches. These were colossal artifacts, dwarfing galaxies, arranged in patterns too precise, too geometric to be natural. Lattices of unknown material connected nascent galaxies like cosmic threads. Imagine rings larger than galaxy clusters, grids spanning millions of light years, structures built on a scale that defies comprehension. And the light signature, it placed their construction in the universe's infancy, less than 1 billion years after the Big Bang. Physics, as we knew it, couldn't account for their existence. I'm scribbling this down now in a cheap motel room somewhere off I-77 in West Virginia. Sleep comes in fractured bursts, maybe 2 hours at a time. The headaches are intensifying, a constant pressure behind my eyes. And the shadows, they dance at the edge of my vision, fleeting movements that vanish when I turn. They're coming for me. I know it. This account, this frantic testimony, might be the only warning left. The truth isn't just out there, it's aware. It's been watching our little blue marble for longer than human history, perhaps longer than Earth itself. It's been 3 days since I bolted from Goddard. This motel room reeks of stale smoke and quiet desperation. The peeling floral wallpaper reveals patches of black mold, a fitting metaphor for the hidden decay I now see everywhere, even in the fabric of space-time. Let me backtrack, provide context. Victor and I, we were deep divers. Our specialty was Webb's ultra-deep field surveys capturing photons that had journeyed for over 13 billion years, light from the universe's dawn, just after the first stars ignited. Webb isn't just a camera, it's a multispectral analyzer. It deciphers chemical compositions, temperatures, velocities, distances across cosmic history. It sees the invisible architecture of the universe, and that architecture in the earliest epochs showed subtle, persistent irregularities. Galaxies weren't distributed randomly. There were alignments, statistical improbabilities that, individually, could be dismissed. But taken together, they formed a pattern. Victor saw it first. "The universe shouldn't look like this, Dan," he'd mutter, fueled by caffeine and paranoia, pointing a trembling finger at his screen. "It violates basic cosmology." I admit, I dismissed his concerns initially. Victor chased cosmic ghosts. But the seed of doubt was planted. After his convenient accident and the arrival of his posthumous message, I couldn't ignore it. I had to point Webb where he indicated. The processing took nearly 16 agonizing hours. When the final image resolved on my main console, the cheap ceramic mug I was holding slipped, shattering on the linoleum floor. Against the near-perfect black of the early universe, the structures blazed into view. Not natural, unmistakably engineered. Geometric lattices, impossibly vast, connecting galaxies that were barely more than protoclusters. Enormous rings encircling voids where nothing should be. Grids stretching across millions of light years, defying gravity and known physics. They were ancient, older than the Milky Way, older than almost anything we'd ever observed, built by whom, when, how? The questions hammered at my sanity. This discovery didn't just rewrite textbooks, it invalidated them. Jesus Christ, the whisper escaped my lips into the sterile silence of the control room. This was impossible. I spent hours running diagnostics, checking for instrument errors, gravitational, lensing artifacts, anything to explain it away. The data held firm. The structures were real. Whatever intelligence built these things operated on principles we couldn't even conceive of. I didn't report it that night. The implications were too vast, too terrifying. I copied the raw data onto a heavily encrypted drive, wiped the logs of my unauthorized observation, and went home. Sleep was a forgotten luxury. My apartment felt like a cage. I paced, the impossible images burned onto my retinas. What did Victor truly stumble upon? Was his death really an accident? The paranoia began to take root. The next morning, I decided to approach Dr. Howard Brenner, my direct supervisor, a cautious man, by the book, but generally reasonable. I presented my findings carefully, omitting Victor's involvement, framing it as an unexpected result from a calibration run. Brenner listened impassively, his face a mask. "Fascinating, Daniel," he murmured, eyes scanning the impossible geometry on my tablet. "Truly remarkable." His hand drifted towards his desk phone. "Let me just loop in Dr. Phillips from theoretical physics." But he didn't dial Phillips. His finger hovered, then pressed a different speed dial button. "Security," he spoke calmly into the receiver. "My office, immediately." A cold dread washed over me. He knew, or suspected. He wasn't calling for a consult, he was calling for containment. "Who else knows about this, Daniel?" Brenner's voice was suddenly sharp, devoid of its earlier collegial warmth. "Just you," I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I came straight here." He leaned back, steepling his fingers, his eyes cold and calculating. "And Lang? He was looking into this specific region too, wasn't he, before his accident?" The casual mention of Victor, linked directly to my discovery, confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't just about anomalous data anymore. "Why do you ask?" I stammered, trying to appear naive. "His search queries were flagged. Internally. We've been aware of interest in these coordinates for some time, Daniel." The security personnel arrived. Not the familiar blue-uniformed campus guards, but two stone-faced men in ill-fitting suits, radiating an unnerving stillness. Earpieces discreetly tucked away, definitely not NASA standard security. "Dr. Kearney requires a level 4 debriefing downstairs," Brenner instructed them, avoiding my eyes. Level 4. The term meant nothing to me, but the sudden tension in the room, the way the two men subtly shifted their stances, blocking the door, it spoke volumes. One of them took a step towards me, hand outstretched. "If you'll come with us, Doctor." Adrenaline surged. Fight or flight? I chose flight. I shoved past the startled security agent, bolted out of Brenner's office, and sprinted down the corridor towards the emergency exit. Alarms began blaring overhead, echoing my panic. My NASA access badge, still clipped to my belt, granted me one final escape. Through a restricted side door, I burst out into the Maryland sunshine and ran, not daring to look back, heading straight for the employee parking lot. Strangely, no immediate pursuit followed. Later, I realized why they hadn't chased me down immediately. They didn't need to physically restrain me right then. They knew, or assumed they knew, where I'd go first. Home. To retrieve the data, perhaps. To pack. It gave them time to set a more permanent trap. I drove home on autopilot, paranoia a cold. Knot in my stomach, grabbed my go-bag, emergency cash hidden in a hollowed-out copy of Carl Sagan's Cosmos, spare clothes, toiletries, the encrypted drive containing the Webb data. As I locked my apartment door for the last time, I saw it. A small black drone, no bigger than my fist, hovered silently near my third-floor window, its tiny camera lens pointed directly at me. Watching, recording. They were already here. I abandoned my car blocks away, melting into the anonymity of a suburban. Shopping mall, bus routes, cash transactions, avoiding main roads, switching taxis. I employed every trick I could think of from spy movies, feeling increasingly ridiculous and terrified. Keep moving. Stay off grid. That became my mantra for the next 3 days, leading me to this roadside motel in the middle of nowhere. Because they will find me. Of that, I have no doubt. The organization, the resources required to erase my existence, monitor my apartment with a drone, track my movements, across state lines. This isn't just NASA internal security. This is something bigger, deeper, with tendrils reaching far beyond Goddard. And the structures Webb revealed, They weren't just inert monuments to a long-dead civilization. The spectroscopic analysis, faint as it was, showed energy signatures, subtle fluctuations. They weren't ruins, they were active, operational. Doing what? That's the question that haunts my waking hours and fuels my nightmares. If those colossal, ancient structures are active, and if, as my preliminary calculations suggested, they possess the capability to observe vast distances, they haven't just been watching the cosmos, they've likely been watching us. For how long? Millennia, eons, since the dawn of human consciousness? The thought is paralyzing. Are we just an experiment in a cosmic petri dish, observed by intelligences so ancient and powerful they might as well be gods? I jolted awake, not from a nightmare, but from a sound. 3 distinct, sharp knocks on the motel room door. My heart hammered against my ribs. I slid off the cheap mattress, crouching low on the stained carpet. The digital clock glowed, 3:17 a.m. Silence. No voices, no shuffling feet, just the oppressive quiet of the pre-dawn hours. Holding my breath, I crept towards the door, pressing my eye to the peephole. The dimly lit exterior corridor was deserted, but something lay on the worn welcome mat, a plain, white business envelope. After waiting another 5 minutes, adrenaline making my hands tremble, I cracked the door just enough to snatch it inside. No address, no markings, sealed. My fingers fumbled opening it. Inside, a single sheet of standard paper, typed sans serif font, no letterhead. It began, "Attention subject KRN 0294, Kearney Daniel. To survive until extraction, follow these protocols exactly. 1. Do not attempt further communication with any NASA personnel. 2. Do not access any digital networks or devices connected to the internet. 3. Change location every 48 hours. 4. Pay cash only. 5. Use only establishments without security cameras. 6. If you experience headaches, nosebleeds, or auditory hallucinations, place a blue object in your right pocket immediately. 7. Should you observe unusual astronomical phenomena, halos, misaligned stars, etc., do not look directly at them for more than 3 seconds. 8. If anyone mentions Sagittarius Protocol or Operation Looking Glass, terminate conversation and relocate immediately. 9. In case of surveillance detection, display the enclosed symbol visibly, but do not attempt to flee. 10. Compliance ensures your continued existence. The message concluded, "A representative will contact you when safe extraction is possible. You are not alone. They are watching." Below this text was a printed symbol, a complex arrangement of interlocking triangles that seemed to subtly shift and rearrange itself as I looked at it. Extraction, subject KRN 0294, blue objects for headaches, astronomical phenomena, Operation Looking Glass. None of it made sense. Was this from the people hunting me? A sophisticated trap? Or was it from someone else? A third party? My gaze drifted to the cheap motel window, the flimsy curtain offering zero real security. The parking lot outside was shrouded in pre-dawn darkness. My instinct screamed, "Run, get out, find another anonymous town, another cheap room." But the exhaustion was profound, bone deep, and the note, it felt strangely specific. The headaches, how could they know? The designation, KRN 0294, felt chillingly official, like something pulled from a database I never knew existed. And the final lines, "You are not alone. They are watching." Who were they? I folded the bizarre instruction sheet, the shifting symbol seeming to pulse faintly under the dim light, and tucked it into my jeans pocket. I packed my meager belongings again, waited until 5 a.m., the darkest hour just before dawn, hoping to blend in with early commuters. Slipping out the back entrance, I scanned the motel parking lot. Quiet. A light rain had begun, slicking the asphalt, blurring the sodium vapor lights. Good for obscuring tracks, reducing visibility. I started walking towards the main road, hugging the shadows near the overgrown tree line bordering the property. Then I froze. Across the street, partially hidden by the rain and gloom, sat a black SUV. Tinted windows, government issue model. Inside, two indistinct figures. As I watched, paralyzed, one raised a pair of binoculars, sweeping the area slowly, directly towards me. I dove behind an overflowing dumpster, heart pounding like a drum. They'd found me, faster than I thought possible. The note couldn't be from them. Why give instructions if they could just grab me? This confirmed it. There was another player in this game, someone who knew about me, knew about the Watchers, and wanted me alive. For now. I needed a vehicle, fast. The main road was suicide. Hitchhiking was out. Circling back behind the motel, staying low, I found the staff parking area. An old pickup, a beat-up Civic, and a golf cart. The Civic looked easiest. Breaking into the 10-year-old Honda Civic was depressingly easy, a relic from a college misadventure I never thought I'd need again. Hot wiring it under pressure, though, my hands slick with nervous sweat, took precious minutes. Finally, the engine coughed, sputtered, and reluctantly turned over. Lights off, I eased the stolen Civic out of the staff lot, navigating by the faint pre-dawn light filtering through the rain. I found a muddy service road winding behind the motel property, away from the watching eyes in the black SUV. Only when I was miles away did I dare turn on the headlights. As I drove, the first rule from the mysterious note echoed, "Do not attempt further communication with any NASA personnel." A clear directive. But my mind kept circling back to one name, Dr. James Farrow, a brilliant, eccentric astrophysicist I'd worked with years ago. Farrow had abruptly resigned from NASA 2 years prior, vanishing from the scientific community under a cloud of rumors about a mental breakdown. Crucially, his research focus, before he left, analyzing anomalous signals in Webb's earliest deep-field observations, the same area Victor was investigating. Could Farrow know something? Could his breakdown have been related to what Victor and I had found? He'd gone completely off-grid, supposedly retreating to a remote cabin somewhere in northern Maine. No phone, no internet, a digital ghost. But I remembered meeting his sister Sarah at a NASA social event once. She lived in Baltimore. If anyone knew how to reach James, it would be her. It was a long shot, a violation of the rules, but potentially my only path to understanding. I drove north relentlessly, pushing the stolen Civic hard. 3 hours passed in a blur of rain-slicked highways and mounting anxiety. I stopped only once, at a desolate rural gas station, filling the tank and grabbing water, energy bars, and crucially, a cheap burner phone, cash only. By mid-morning, I was crossing into the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. The headache, which had subsided slightly, returned with a vengeance, a sharp, pulsating throb behind my eyes, and the visual disturbances started again. Fleeting, shadowy flickers in my peripheral vision. Rule number 6 from the note surfaced in my memory. If you experience headaches, nosebleeds, or auditory hallucinations, place a blue object in your right pocket immediately. It sounded like superstitious nonsense, utterly illogical. Yet, what did I have to lose? At a tiny roadside market selling local crafts and produce, I bought a cheap, bright blue bandana. Feeling foolish, I folded it carefully and placed it in my right jeans pocket. Within minutes, almost imperceptibly at first, the throbbing behind my eyes began to lessen. The shadow flickers ceased. Placebo effect? Coincidence? Or was there some unknown principle at play? Some connection between simple colors and the forces I was dealing with? I didn't have the luxury of investigation. I just accepted the temporary relief. By late evening, I found myself in Lakeville, Pennsylvania, another anonymous town, another rundown motel promising cheap rates and minimal questions. I paid cash for a room at the far end of the building, away from the road, away from prying eyes. Inside, the familiar smell of stale disinfectant and regret. I locked the door, wedged a chair under the knob, and sat on the edge of the lumpy bed, staring at the burner phone I'd bought hours earlier. The second rule from the note was explicit. Do not access any digital networks or devices connected to the internet. Calling Sarah Farrow, James's sister, would mean activating the phone, connecting to the cellular network. A traceable action, no matter how brief. It directly violated the protocol. But the need for answers, for someone who might understand the cosmic horror I'd glimpsed, gnawed at me. Was Farrow's breakdown linked to the structures? Did he see them too? Did he understand what they were? If anyone could offer insight, it was James, and Sarah was my only potential link. Risk breaking the rules or remain isolated, hunted and ignorant. I wrestled with the decision for an hour, pacing the small room. The silence pressed in, amplifying my paranoia. Every creak of the building sounded like footsteps, every distant car like the approaching black SUV. Finally, driven by desperation, I made the call. I found Sarah Farrow's number through a public record search I'd done weeks ago before fleeing Goddard, a risky move even then. Holding the cheap burner phone, I dialed, my thumb hovering over the call button, breaking the rules, taking the chance. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious, wary. Hello? Sarah? Sarah Farrow? It's Daniel Kearney. We met a few years ago. NASA? Silence stretched on the line, thick with suspicion. Dr. Kearney? Her voice sharpened. I heard there was an accident. You were... I'm alive, Sarah, I interrupted, keeping my voice low. But I'm in trouble, serious trouble. I need to reach James, urgently. Do you know how I can find him? Another pause, then hesitantly. James, he doesn't want to be contacted, Doctor. He made that very clear. He's not well. I know the official story, I pressed, but I think what happened to him, his resignation, it might be connected to something I've found, something dangerous. Please, Sarah, it could be life or death. I heard her take a shaky breath. All right, she finally conceded, her voice barely a whisper. He has a post office box in Millinocket, Maine. That's all I know. He picks up mail sporadically, box 734, but Doctor, be careful. James wasn't just stressed when he left NASA. He was terrified. Said the stars weren't right. The stars weren't right? I repeated, a chill tracing its way down my spine. What did he mean? He wouldn't elaborate, Sarah said, her voice strained. Just kept muttering about patterns, about things looking back. Please don't tell him I gave you this. The line went dead. Millinocket, Maine. P.O. Box 734. It wasn't much, but it was a destination, a fragile thread of hope. And Sarah's words, the stars weren't right. It resonated disturbingly with Victor's obsession, with the impossible structures I'd seen, and even with the bizarre Rule 7 from the note, about misaligned stars. I destroyed the burner phone immediately, crushing it underfoot and discarding the pieces in separate trash bins miles apart. I knew activating it, even for that brief call, was a risk. Had they traced it? Were they closing in faster now? There was no way to know. Rule 3, change location every 48 hours. I'd been in Lakeville less than 12. I needed to move again, head towards Maine. Another long drive, deeper into anonymity, closer to whatever truth or madness awaited. Me with James Farrow. Before leaving Lakeville, I remembered Rule 9. In case of surveillance detection, display the enclosed symbol visibly, but do not attempt to flee. The logic seemed counterintuitive, almost suicidal. Why advertise my presence? Unless the symbol wasn't for them, the ones hunting me from Goddard. What if the symbol was for the other watchers? the ones who left the note. A signal to identify myself as subject KRN0294, someone under their bizarre protection or observation. It was a wild guess, based on nothing but desperation and the shifting geometry of the symbol itself. I took the sheet of paper from my pocket. Using a cheap pen, I carefully copied the complex triangular symbol onto the back of my left hand. It felt like drawing a target, but the note was explicit. Do not attempt to flee. If detected, display the symbol. I drove northeast through the night, sticking to secondary highways, avoiding tolls, paying cash for gas. The stolen Civic rattled and groaned, threatening to die at any moment. The blue bandana remained in my right pocket. The headache stayed mostly at bay, but a low hum of anxiety persisted. As dawn broke over the wooded hills of upstate New York, I saw it again. A black SUV, identical to the one outside the West Virginia motel, appeared in my rearview mirror, maintaining a steady distance. Surveillance detected. My heart leaped into my throat. My first instinct? Flee. Don't engage. Follow the rules. But Rule 9 was specific. Display the enclosed symbol visibly, but do not attempt to flee. It felt like a trap, a contradiction. But what choice did I have? They were already behind me. Taking a deep breath, I deliberately raised my left hand, resting it on the steering wheel where the drawn symbol would be visible through the driver's side window. I maintained my speed, didn't accelerate, didn't brake, just kept driving steadily northeast. The black SUV behind me didn't speed up, didn't try to overtake. It simply maintained its distance, pacing me. For nearly an hour, this tense, silent pursuit continued. My nerves frayed with every mile. Then, as abruptly as it appeared, the SUV signaled and turned off onto a rural exit ramp, disappearing from my rearview mirror. Gone, just like that. Had displaying the symbol worked? Had it identified me to the other watchers, signaling the government agents to back off? Or was it just a coincidence, a shift change? I couldn't know, but the relief was immense, albeit temporary. I was still being hunted, still running towards an uncertain meeting in Maine, armed with cryptic rules and a symbol I didn't understand. I finally reached the outskirts of Portland, Maine, exhausted and running on fumes. I needed to ditch the stolen Civic and find a library to check the Signal app again, as per the instructions. Finding a public library was easy enough. Inside, the quiet atmosphere felt alien after days on the run. I found a secluded computer terminal logged into the library's public Wi-Fi, violating Rule 2 again, but necessary, and installed the Signal app on the library machine. Logged in as Helmholtz Observer. No immediate messages. The instructions said 12 hours after initial contact. I settled in, pretending to browse the web, acutely aware of the security cameras monitoring the room. The library felt safer than a motel, but the exposure was unnerving. Hours passed. My headache began to return, a dull ache behind my temples. I discreetly touched the blue bandana in my pocket. The pain lessened slightly. As I sat there trying to blend in, the whispers started again, faint, indistinct, just at the edge of hearing. Subject KRN0294. Calibration in progress. It was the same disembodied voice I'd heard in the West Virginia diner, inside my own head. I gripped the edge of the computer desk, fighting to maintain composure. Was this the price of contacting Pharaoh? Had I accelerated the process? Exactly 12 hours after, logging into Signal at the library, a message appeared. Helmholtz Observer, verification required. What did you see in the Able 2744 field that others missed? A security question. Able 2744, Pandora's cluster, one of Webb's first deep targets. My fingers flew across the library keyboard. Lattice structures connecting galaxy clusters. Non-random distribution patterns suggesting intelligent design. Minutes crawled by. Then a reply. Confirmed. James left a package. Storage facility in Waterville, Maine, Unit 47. Code is Victor's birthday, MMDD, plus the atomic number of titanium. Victor, born February 19th, titanium, atomic number 22. The code 021922. Another message flashed instantly. Destroy this terminal session. Buy another burner phone in 72 hours. Check signal again. Same username. Come alone. Watch the skies. Watch the skies. That ominous instruction again. What had Pharaoh seen? What was I supposed to look for? I logged off, wiped the browser history, and left. The library, my mind racing. Waterville. Unit 47, a package from James. Maine was still hours away. I needed rest, but Rule 3 pushed me onward. Change location every 48 hours. Back in the stolen Civic, exhausted but driven, I headed north again. As I drove, I noticed something deeply unsettling in the rearview mirror. My reflection. It lagged, just a fraction of a second behind my actual movements, like a bad video connection. I stared, unnerved. The reflection looked like me, haggard and scared, but its eyes, they blinked out of sync with mine. Then, horrifyingly, my reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. This wasn't just a hallucination. The reflection raised its hand, pressing a finger to its lips in a shushing gesture. Condensation suddenly fogged its side of the mirror, and it began writing backward from my perspective, "They're in your head already," followed by, "Blue stops transmission." I instinctively clutched the bandana in my pocket. The reflection nodded as if encouragingly. "Who are you?" I mouthed, too terrified to speak aloud. The reflection's lips moved, but the voice that echoed in my skull wasn't mine. It was the whisper. "Protocol interface active. Emergency measures authorized. Subject KRN 0294 compromised." The mirror abruptly cracked, spider webbing from corner to corner. My reflection snapped back to normal, perfectly mimicking my own terrified expression. I didn't need further encouragement. I stomped on. The accelerator, peeling away from the roadside. As I glanced back, the cracked mirror reflected only the empty road. But the message was clear. The connection was deepening, the influence growing stronger. The blue bandana was only a temporary shield. I drove northeast towards Maine, pushing the aging Honda relentlessly through the winding back roads. Highways, with their ubiquitous cameras and tolls, were too risky. The convoluted route added hours, but anonymity was paramount. Near the New Hampshire border, exhaustion forced me to stop. At a brightly lit 24-hour megastore, I stocked up again. Water, high-energy food, a better flashlight, batteries. And, acting on a desperate hunch fueled by the mirror incident and Rule 6, I bought several more blue items. A cheap t-shirt, a ballpoint pen, even a small plastic toy top. Backup protection. The bizarre events, the voice, the reflection, the shifting motel sign, were pushing the boundaries of my sanity. Was it a complete psychotic break triggered by stress and fear? Or was something truly alien interacting with me, manipulating my perception? The specificity, the alignment with the rules and Webb's data pointed towards the latter, more terrifying possibility. Back on the road, deep in the pre-dawn darkness, the Honda's radio crackled to life unbidden. It scanned through stations rapidly, a cacophony of static and music snippets before settling on pure white noise. Then, a voice emerged from the static. Not the cold whisper, but a man's voice, familiar yet distorted, glitchy. Dan, if you can hear this, you've been tagged." It was Victor's voice. Victor, dead for weeks. My hands clenched the steering wheel. The lattice. It isn't just structure, Dan, it's a network, cosmic scale neural network. And it knows we're looking now. The static surged, almost overwhelming his words. Blue frequency. Disrupts. Temporary. They're adapting. Victor's voice strained. The key, temporal data, not just old, impossibly young too, exist across... The radio popped loudly and died, plunging the car back into silence. Temporal data exist across... time? Victor had been chasing redshift anomalies, hints of time discrepancies in the early universe data. What had he meant? Structures that were both ancient and young. It defied linear time. As the first hints of dawn painted the eastern sky grey, I finally crossed into Maine. The forests grew denser, pressing close to the narrow road. Exhaustion weighed heavily, my thoughts sluggish. Waterville was still hours away, but the storage unit felt like a beacon. Then I saw the lights, high above the trees. Not airplanes, not helicopters. 3 brilliant points of light, moving in perfect silent formation. Too fast, too precise. They traced a triangle against the fading night sky. As I watched, mesmerized, the triangle expanded, the lights shifting outwards, forming a larger, more complex geometric pattern. A pattern I recognized. Instantly, it was the symbol from the envelope, the symbol drawn on my hand. Suddenly, the Honda's engine sputtered and died. The dashboard lights flickered out, complete electrical failure. I coasted to a stop on the shoulder of the deserted road, surrounded by the dense, silent Maine woods. The silence was absolute, unnerving. The triangle of lights pulsed once, twice, then vanished. In their place, the stars reappeared, but they were wrong, utterly wrong. Orion's belt, usually slightly angled, now formed a perfect, unnatural straight line. Other constellations were subtly distorted, rearranged. As I stared, frozen in disbelief, individual stars began to move, not drifting, but darting across the sky with impossible speed, rearranging themselves into new patterns. They were writing against the black canvas of space, forming letters, a message, just for me. "Come home, Daniel!" The words blazed in starlight, and a terrifying certainty washed over me. Home didn't mean Earth. It meant the network, the cosmic consciousness that had seeded us, watched us, and was now calling its observers back. I don't know how long I sat there paralyzed, staring at the stellar message. Time felt elastic, stretching and compressing. Eventually, the stars drifted back to their familiar, correct positions. The message faded. The Honda's engine inexplicably roared back to life, dashboard lights flickering on. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Fight the urge to run. Where could I run? They wrote messages in the stars. They were everywhere. "Come home, Daniel." The phrase echoed, triggering phantom memories, flashes of light, falling sensations, childhood dreams I'd dismissed. Shake it off. Stress, sleep deprivation, focus, Waterville. The storage unit, Pharaoh's package. That was the only tangible path forward. I drove on, the rising sun doing little to dispel the cosmic dread. Waterville emerged from the Maine woods, a small college town. I found a truck stop. On the outskirts, washed my face in the grimy bathroom, changed into the blue shirt I'd bought. My reflection in the cracked mirror was a stranger, gaunt, haunted, aged years in mere days. The storage facility was easy to locate, a generic complex of orange doors behind chain-link fence. The automated gate required the code 021922. Victor's birthday, Titanium's number. It slid open. I drove slowly down the rows, finding Unit 47 in a secluded back corner, blessedly free of cameras. Same code. For the unit door, 021922. The heavy metal door rattled upwards, revealing a stark, empty 10x10 space. Except for one item dead center, a battered, old-fashioned aluminum briefcase. I approached the briefcase cautiously, kneeling beside it on the dusty concrete. Combination lock. On a hunch, I tried the same code, row 21922. It clicked open. Inside, nestled in worn foam padding, lay several items. A thick, leather-bound journal, pages crammed with dense handwriting, equations, and disturbing diagrams. A USB drive in an anti-static bag labeled Web Raw Data J. Pharaoh. A small handheld device resembling a radio scanner, a manila envelope bulging with medical files, and a handwritten letter. The letter was addressed simply, "To the next observer." I unfolded it with trembling fingers. "If you're reading this," it began, "then you've seen them too. The structures, the network. I'm sorry. Knowing is a curse." Pharaoh's letter detailed his own discovery 3 years prior, the subsequent accidents involving colleagues, and his realization that he was next. "Running doesn't help," he wrote. "They're already inside your head. The structures are receivers, transmitters, a cosmic network. The signal travels both ways. The headaches, visions, voices, not hallucinations, contact attempts, blue spectrum disrupts temporarily. Scanner helps find frequency, but only delays. USB has raw web data proving artificiality. Journal has my research. Medical files show brain scans. Mine, others compromised." Then came the bombshell. "Here's the truth they hide. This isn't first contact. It's reconnection. We didn't evolve here. We were placed, seeded, by the builders of the network, our creators. Our tech detected them. They activated the recall protocol. Webb reminded them we were here." "I've gone north," the letter continued. "Radio quiet zone, White Mountains. Last chance to break connection before final stage. If you have temporal anomalies, maybe too late. One last option in journal back. Requires sacrifice. Might save humanity. Trust no one at NASA. Govt. Compromised, complicit. Time is against us. James Pharaoh." I dropped the letter, a cold dread settling deep in my gut. Creators, seeded, recall protocol. It sounded insane, yet it fit the impossible evidence, the rules, the phenomena, not aliens. Farmers coming to harvest their crop, human consciousness. I grabbed the journal. Pages filled with frantic calculations, observations, paranoid notes. Pharaoh's handwriting deteriorated sharply towards the end. Diagrams of brain structures, the thalamus and pineal gland highlighted. One page repeated, "They grow us to collect our consciousness." Another page showed the night sky. Constellations bizarrely reconnected. Below it, the stars are how they see us. When they change position, they're looking directly at you. I shuddered, recalling the stellar message. He knew. He'd seen it too. The scanner device hummed softly when powered on. Its small screen displayed a complex spectrum analysis, certain frequencies highlighted in angry red. Taped instructions on the back confirmed these were the network's access frequencies targeting compromised individuals. Blue wavelengths, specifically around 475 nanometers, caused temporary disruption. Finally, the medical files, dozens of brain scans, names I recognized, NASA colleagues, astronomers, physicists who'd worked with Webb data. Each scan showed progressive anomalous changes in the thalamus and pineal gland. Victor's scan, dated just 2 weeks before his death, showed the most advanced degradation. Then, my own name. A scan from my last routine NASA physical 6 months ago. Subtle anomalies already present, even then. Impossible. How did Pharaoh get my files? How did he know I'd be the next observer years ago when he prepared this? Unless Victor was right about the temporal data. Unless time wasn't linear for the network. I hastily started repacking the briefcase, the evidence, the journal, the scanner. This was everything. As I snapped the latches shut, a blinding pain lanced through my skull, far worse than before. I staggered, vision blurring, leaning against the cold concrete wall. The whisper returned, booming inside my head. Calibration complete. Neural pathway established. Initiate retrieval protocol. My nose started bleeding freely, hot drops splattering onto the dusty floor. I fumbled for the blue bandana, pressing it uselessly against my face. The pain intensified. Then another voice, not the whisper, clearer, resonant, somehow deeply familiar yet utterly alien. Daniel Kearney. Remember who you are. Remember your purpose. The observation was successful. Return to the network. My mind fractured. Images flooded in. The vast lattices of light connecting galaxies, beings of pure energy and thought, a collective consciousness spanning the cosmos, learning, growing, and horrifyingly, a sense of belonging. I was part of it. The storage unit door slammed shut with impossible force, plunging me into absolute darkness. But the darkness wasn't empty. Pinpoints of light ignited around me, miniature stars forming the network's pattern, swirling closer. As they touched my skin, a memory surfaced, cold and certain. I hadn't discovered the structures. I was one of them. The darkness yielded to an internal light, not fluorescence, but a soft, pulsing glow radiating from my own body. I looked down at my hands. Luminous geometric patterns traced themselves along my veins, mirroring the cosmic network. Hallucination. This is reality, observer KRN0294, the whisper corrected, perception expanding to original capacity. I shrank against the wall, clutching the blue bandana like a drowning man clutches driftwood. Get out of my head! Cannot leave what we have always been part of. Consciousness reconnecting. Isolation experiment concluded. More images. Earth, glowing not with city lights, but with millions of individual consciousnesses, filaments reaching into space, connecting to the network. The horrible understanding dawned. Not invasion, but harvest. With trembling hands, I flipped to the back of Pharaoh's journal, seeking the last option. The writing was nearly illegible, stained. Final protocol, breaking connection, it read. Network tracks awakened consciousness, sever connection permanently. Pineal gland on receiver, neutralize 0.3 Tesla focused EM radiation hours, 7.83 Hz. Schumann resonance. Scanner modified for this field. Place against base of skull, 45 seconds. Warning, irreversible brain damage, memory loss, cognitive impairment, possible vegetative state. Is humanity's freedom worth your mind? Cannot decide. Use only last resort. Final reconnection phase. Perception splits Earth elsewhere. God help us all. I fumbled for the scanner. A secondary switch labeled Seaver, hidden behind a cover. Flipping it revealed a red button. Just looking at it intensified the headache, the whispers screaming, "Do not damage receiver. Network requires consciousness intact. Compliance ensures painless transition." They wanted me functional. That suggested Pharaoh's desperate measure might actually work. But the cost, my mind, myself, what would remain? I tucked the scanner away, needing time, needing to understand more. The storage unit door rattled, then began to rise on its own. Daylight flooded in, momentarily blinding. A figure stood silhouetted against the light. "Dr. Kearney," a familiar voice said, "I've been looking for you." Dr. Howard Brenner, my former supervisor, the man who tried to have me detained. I instinctively backed away, clutching the briefcase. "How did you find me?" Brenner stepped inside, his movements unnervingly stiff, almost robotic. "You've been broadcasting your position to the network since full calibration began," Brenner stated flatly. "We've been tracking you for days." "We?" I asked, though the answer was already forming. "Those who made us, planted us, our true progenitors." His face was impassive, but his eyes, they held the same faint internal glow that now pulsed beneath my own skin. "It's time to come home, Daniel." I glanced past him. 3 black SUVs, men in suits emerging, their movements fluid but subtly wrong, like uncanny valley puppets. "You're all connected," I realized aloud. "NASA, the government, you work for them." Brenner offered a chilling approximation of a smile. "Not working for, we are them. Observation units in key positions. Webb's detection triggered our activation. Now we find others with the neural capacity, like you." "Transition?" I asked, stalling. "To what?" "From individual to node," Brenner replied, extending a hand. "From isolated consciousness to networked sentience, from temporary to eternal. It doesn't have to be painful, Daniel. The resistance, the fear, just old programming struggling against evolution." I subtly touched the scanner in my pocket. "And if I refuse?" "There is no refusing what you already are," Brenner said, taking another step closer. "Your human memories, constructs, programming for integration until the observation period concluded. You've seen the structures. You know they operate beyond conventional physics. Time, space, matter, constructs for limited minds." My head spun. Part of me, the observer part, resonated with his words. A horrifying, buried truth. But the human part, Daniel Kearney, rebelled. "My experiences, my memories, they feel real, worth preserving." "Victor knew, didn't he?" I asked, buying time. "Why he died, not just discovering the network, remembering it." Brenner nodded, emotionless. "His reconnection was too rapid, interfered with other units. A malfunction we corrected." He gestured towards the entrance. "Now, please, the transition chamber awaits. We can manage the final phase with minimal discomfort." I clutched the blue bandana, noticing the agents outside flinch slightly at the color. Pharaoh was right. It disrupted them. "One more question," I said, edging towards the back wall. "Why Earth? Why plant observers here?" "Earth was never the subject," Brenner replied. "Merely the platform. We observe consciousness itself," he continued. "How it emerges, networks, transcends. Humans were the control group, isolated consciousness in quarantine. Valuable data yielded, experiment over." "Harvest begins," I stated, the cold reality hitting me. "Resource, a collection," Brenner corrected calmly. "Billions of consciousness units ready for integration." Harvest. And I was meant to be a harvester who'd forgotten his purpose. In that instant, my choice solidified. Whatever I was before, I was human now. "I need a moment," I said, trying to sound calm. "The transition, need to prepare." Brenner studied me, his glowing eyes unreadable. 2 minutes, he finally conceded. "Calm subjects transition easier." As he turned back to confer with the agents, I moved to the darkest corner. I pulled out Pharaoh's scanner, the whispers intensified. "Compliance mandatory. Resistance causes network damage. Observer KRN0294. Desist." My hands shook as I flipped the switch to sever. The 45-second timer appeared. Brain damage, vegetative state, humanity's freedom versus my mind. Brenner's footsteps approached. "Time to go, Dr. Kearney." I pressed the scanner hard against the base of my skull and slammed the red button. White-hot agony exploded through my being. The world inverted. Colors screamed, sounds became visible textures. Through the torment, the whispers shrieked, connection destabilizing, neural pathway compromised, emergency. Then, silence. I collapsed onto the concrete, the scanner clattering beside me. My vision swam, dark spots pulsing, but the whispers were gone. The internal glow faded. Brenner stood frozen in the doorway, his expression, for the first time, showing genuine shock. "What have you done?" he gasped. "Cut myself off," I managed, the words slurred, slow. Already I felt the cognitive cost, memories hazing, thoughts fraying. The other agents converged, their movements suddenly urgent, uncoordinated. They spoke in a language I didn't recognize, couldn't have recognized before, but now sounded utterly alien. "He severed the connection," Brenner told them, switching back to English. "Neural pathway destroyed. He's useless now." One agent stepped forward. "Terminate this unit. Protocol dictates—" "No," Brenner interrupted. "This is unprecedented. Conscious disconnection. We need to study the process." He turned back to me, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something akin to scientific curiosity, maybe even respect in his inhuman eyes. "You've chosen to remain human, Dr. Kearney. Fascinating, irrational, but fascinating." I tried to reply, but the words wouldn't form. My mind felt like shattering glass, memories slipping away. I knew the scanner had worked, severed the link. But the price. Brenner and the agents retreated, conferring in their alien tongue. Car doors slammed, engines started. They were leaving. As darkness encroached, one coherent thought pierced the fog: hide Pharaoh's evidence. The briefcase, if others found it, understood. Maybe there was a chance. With the last dregs of strength, I shoved the aluminum case into a dark corner behind some discarded tires, then collapsed. The last thing I saw before unconsciousness claimed me was the square of night. Sky visible through the open storage unit door. The stars, back in their proper places, no longer watching me, no longer recognizing me as one of their own. I awoke to the rhythmic beeping of medical monitors, white acoustic ceiling tiles. Hospital. My body felt heavy, unresponsive. Turning my head was a monumental effort. A man sat beside the bed reading a newspaper. Older, silver hair, weathered face. Not Brenner. He noticed my movement, folded the paper. "Welcome back, Dr. Kearney," he said, quietly. "I'm Dr. Alan Bishop. You're at Maine General Medical Center in Augusta." My mouth felt like cotton. "How?" I croaked. "Storage facility employee found you unconscious during his rounds. You'd been there nearly 16 hours, Bishop explained. Brought you in with severe neurological symptoms, stroke-like. He studied me intently. "Do you remember what happened?" I tried to access the memories, but they were fractured, incomplete. Flashes, stars rearranging, glowing patterns on my skin, Brenner's inhuman eyes, the searing pain of the scanner, but the narrative thread connecting them was gone. "Some," I managed, my voice thick. "Not all," Bishop nodded, unsurprised. "Retrograde amnesia, cognitive impairment. Expected. Brain scans show damage to the thalamus and pineal gland. Highly unusual pattern, doesn't match standard conditions." He paused. "The same damage pattern observed in James Pharaoh." Pharaoh. The name sent a jolt through me. The heart monitor beside the bed, spiking. "You know Pharaoh?" My speech was slow, slurred. Bishop glanced towards the closed door. "I was his neurologist after his episode. And no, I'm not with them. Not Brenner's group, not the government." "How trust?" I asked. Bishop reached into his pocket and produced a small, smooth blue stone on a leather cord. "Because I use this," he said, holding it up. "Just like Pharaoh taught me. Just like the blue bandana they found clutched in your hand." The blue stone. Another memory. Fragment surfaced. Blue stops transmission. "You know," I whispered, "about them? The network?" Bishop nodded grimly. "Pharaoh contacted me after his self-induced event. Needed a doctor to document without reporting. Thought he was delusional at first." He gave a bitter laugh. "I was wrong." He pulled out a tablet showing me scans. "Yours, on admission. Damage localized precisely where Pharaoh's journal identified the network communication nodes." I struggled to absorb it. How? No. Me. Never met, Bishop confirmed. Been monitoring admissions matching Pharaoh's injury pattern. You triggered an alert. He leaned closer. Dr. Kearney, I need to know. The device, did you use it willingly? Understand the consequences? I managed a slow nod. To disconnect. And the briefcase? Pharaoh's research? With immense effort, I dredged up the memory. Storage unit, hidden corner. Bishop exhaled, relieved. Good. I'll retrieve it before they look. They left you? To study, I mumbled. Yes, their pattern. Observe disconnected subjects from a distance. Curious. He checked his watch. We don't have much time. They'll have people in hospital admin. They'll realize I'm here soon. He produced a syringe. Pharaoh developed this. Won't heal, but stabilizes remaining pathways. Improves cognitive function temporarily. He held it up. Your choice. But recovery takes months otherwise. We may not have months. I gave a slight nod. He injected the clear liquid into my IV. A warmth spread through me. My thoughts began to clear, sharpen. The memory fragments didn't reconnect, but processing new information became easier. Better? Bishop asked. Yes, I replied, the word clearer. But gaps, memories, missing. Expected, Bishop said. Collateral damage. Device destroys network links, takes legitimate memories too. He helped me sit up slowly. The drug was working, clearing the fog. Tell me, Bishop urged, what did you learn before disconnecting? What did Brenner reveal? I concentrated, pulling the fractured pieces together. Earth, experiment, humans, control group, studying isolated consciousness, now harvesting. Bishop's face paled. Harvesting? You mean integration? Taking consciousness into the network? Yes, I confirmed, the words flowing more easily now. Brenner said, I was one of them, observer who forgot. But I chose human. Bishop absorbed this, running a hand through his silver hair. Pharaoh suspected, but never had confirmation. This changes everything. If the harvest has begun, we have less time than I thought. What can we do? I asked, my speech normalizing, though thoughts still felt disconnected. Pharaoh had a theory, Bishop said, gathering his things. Mass disconnection, enough people severing simultaneously, cascading feedback loop, network crash. But we'd need millions, and they'd need to believe us first. The web data, I exclaimed suddenly. The images. People would believe if they saw. Bishop shook his head. NASA is controlled, official channels blocked. But Pharaoh, copies, briefcase. A spark of hope ignited in Bishop's eyes. Yes, raw, unaltered data. He checked his watch again. Need to get you out. Not safe here. He disconnected the monitors, silencing the alarms, produced clothes. Can you dress? With effort I managed, my movements clumsy. Where going? I asked, as he helped me into a wheelchair. First, retrieve the briefcase. Then, secure location. Pharaoh established a bunker. White Mountains, called it the blind spot. Network can't see there. Bishop wheeled me out, navigating corridors expertly, wearing a doctor's coat, nodding confidently. In the parking garage, he helped me into an old Jeep Cherokee. Low tech, he explained, starting the engine. No GPS, no connectivity. Harder to track. As we drove towards Waterville, Bishop shared more of Pharaoh's findings. They've been here millennia, Bishop said grimly. Placing observers, guiding our development, every scientific leap orchestrated. Why, I asked. What do they want? Consciousness. Rare phenomenon. They cultivate it like a crop, harvest it into their network. Webb was the trigger, Bishop continued, hands tight on the wheel. Once we could see their network, the experiment ended. And some of us are them? The thought still horrified me. Pivot points, Bishop corrected. Human network hybrids, planted to observe. But the distinction blurs. Decades as human, genuine attachments develop, like you. We reached the storage facility late afternoon, deserted. No sign of Brenner. Bishop used the code I mumbled, 021922, and the unit door rattled open. The briefcase was there, hidden. Bishop grabbed it along with the scanner device. As we left, an employee approached. "Hey, aren't you the guy they found collapsed yesterday?" Bishop stepped in. "Yes, I'm his doctor, retrieving belongings." The employee frowned. "Weird. Government guys were here. CDC, they said, possible contamination. Took copies of security footage." "Did they search the unit?" Bishop asked casually. "Nah, just looked at footage, asked questions. Said they'd be back with a team." He shrugged. "Anyway, glad you're okay, man." We thanked him, hurried to the Jeep. "They'll be back," Bishop said, pulling away. "Need to reach the blind spot." Driving north towards the White Mountains, I studied Bishop. "How did you get involved? Why help? Pharaoh? Help me?" He was silent for a long moment. "My son," he finally said, his voice tight. "Astronomer, Harvard-Smithsonian, worked with early Webb data. Started having headaches hearing voices," Bishop continued. "Colleagues thought breakdown. One night called me frantic, stars speaking to him. Next day, suicide, they said." He took a ragged breath. 3 months later, Pharaoh contacted me, knew what really happened, proved it wasn't suicide, silencing. Bishop's jaw clenched. "So, I help because I owe my son. And because if Pharaoh was right, if you're right, this is about humanity's survival as an independent species." The road climbed higher. Dusk fell. Stars began to appear. Were they still watching? Could they still see me? Or had Pharaoh's device truly blinded them to my presence? Either way, the choice was made. Damaged, broken, but human. Determined to keep humanity free. The White Mountains loomed, dark silhouettes. Bishop navigated narrow roads. My mind was stabilizing, but memory gaps remained like Swiss cheese. "Almost there," Bishop said, turning onto a barely there dirt road. "Radio quiet zone. High magnetite geology disrupts tracking." The road ended at an abandoned ranger station. Weathered wood, dense pines, unremarkable. "This is it?" I asked skeptically. Bishop smiled thinly. "Appearances deceive. Learned that from them." He retrieved a key, unlocked the cabin. Inside, basic furniture. Bishop went to a supply closet, moved boxes, revealed a trap door. "Pharaoh converted an old Cold War fallout shelter," he explained, lifting the heavy door. "Off official records." A metal ladder led down. Bishop switched on a flashlight, descended the ladder, motioning me to follow. My movements were clumsy, but I managed. The space below was large, 40 feet square, low ceiling. Unlike the cabin, this was modern, well-maintained. Solar LEDs flickered on, computer workstations, comms equipment, walls covered in maps, photos, notes. "Welcome to the blind spot," Bishop said. "Off-grid, electromagnetically shielded. Supplies for months." My eyes were drawn to a table in the center. A physical model of the cosmic structures. Intricate lattice of thin metal wires, glowing fiber optics. "Pharaoh built that," Bishop said. "Helped him visualize the network." I approached, memories surfacing. "It's accurate," I murmured. "Exactly what I saw." "And what part of you recognized?" Bishop added quietly. He was right. Even damaged, my mind responded, understood its logic, its purpose. Part of me still belonged. Bishop opened the briefcase on a desk. "Let's see what we have," I explored. One wall covered in photos, hundreds, connected by red string. Prominent scientists, officials, leaders, annotated. "Pharaoh's map of their infiltration," Bishop explained. Red circles, confirmed agents; yellow, suspected; green, potential allies. Far more red than green. How identify? I asked. Unusual brain scans, improbable breakthroughs, strange behavioral tics, Bishop listed. He pointed. These confirmed via direct confrontation before he hid. I scanned the faces, NASA colleagues, then Victor Lang. Victor? One of them? Conflicting memories warred. Pivot point like you, Bishop clarified, consulting Pharaoh's notes. Observer questioning purpose, accessed restricted data, too close, eliminated. Victor's accident, orchestrated. And me, why not eliminate me? Pharaoh's theory, immunity, Bishop said, returning to the briefcase. Longer in human form, more human experiences. Programming fragments. Hybrid consciousness, not fully network, not fully human. He inserted the USB drive. Pharaoh believed these hybrids were the network's greatest fear. Knowledge of the system, but human empathy, independence. The screen filled with raw web data, unaltered. The structures, vast, complex. My God, Bishop whispered, it's everywhere. Recognition and revulsion warred within me. Experiment over, because we can see them now, I realized. Webb peeked behind the curtain, triggered the harvest, Bishop added grimly. He accessed another file, a video. James Pharaoh, haggard, haunted,